If you guys want some gamer subs, make sure to use code GM for 10% off. And while you're at it, come check me out live over at twitch.tv/gminers. Thanks. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Gminers here. As you saw in the title and thumbnail, this is a new 1.3 million DPS combo, which to my knowledge is the highest you can get in the game right now without specific activity or seasonal modifiers applied. There might be some other combos that are higher in damage output, but this combo deals all the damage in around 1 second, so nothing else is going to come close to the DPS or the burst damage that this can output. All I do here is hit Prizia with the Parasite and Blade Barrage, and I take down around a third of her health for almost 1.4 million damage. There's a lot of stacking going on here, so I'm going to go over that right now. As most people are aware, we get a huge buff to the Worm Launcher by getting 20 kills before shooting it. At base, this does 83,681 damage with no stacks, no buffs, no debuffs, or any perks active. But with Worm Byproduct, we get 10% extra damage per stack for a total of 200% increased damage, aka a 3x multiplier. So with this active, we now hit for 251k plus another 66k, which is around 317,000 in total. The 251,000 is exactly 3 times our original damage, and the 66,000 is just bonus, I guess. But either way, we are at least getting 3x damage at 20 stacks. Now, I switch over to a primary to just showcase the stacking of buffs we are using. With our base weapon damage, we headshot for 1,344. After this, I proc the Radiant buff with a melee, which is a 25% increase in weapon damage, and we now hit for 1,679. Now, typically, you could only ever stack one global empowering buff with a global debuff. If you wanted anything else to stack, it had to either be a perk from weapons or exotics or additional modifiers like Font of Might. But for some reason, Radiant is stacking with tier 1 empowering buffs, which is anything at 20%. The easiest of these to use is High Energy Fire, so with that, we get another 20% weapon damage and now hit for 2,015 damage each headshot. The last thing we can add to this, which I mentioned, was Font of Might, which is just a modifier. This is an extra 25% from grabbing a well that matches our subclass, which boosts weapon damage of the same element. So now my Solar SMG is going to hit for 2,519 in the head. And then if you compare that to the original 1344, we are at a 1.875 damage multiplier without using any damage perks or even a debuff. If we go back and use a ×20 worm shot against the same Lost Sector boss with everything stacking, we now hit for 470,000 damage, which is exactly 1.875x more than we hit before. When taking this up against Prizia, I also combined this with Blade Barrage and Star Eater scales. The first run I did, I wasn't paying attention to my Feast of Light stack, so I only had half the damage buff on my super, but I still managed to hit for just over 1 million in this single combo. And then after that is when I combined this with a debuff from Tractor Cannon, where I hit for almost 1.4 million in just a second. Even if this combo isn't enough to kill bosses right away, you can easily use this same buff stacking with things like the Cataclysmic or Galahorn and deal better sustained damage. Adding in a 30% debuff and the buff from something like Bait and Switch, which is 35%, a Cataclysmic could hit for around 3.3 times more than its base damage. Unless the Radiant buff is changed to no longer stack with High Energy Fire in the future, this is definitely going to continue to be the damage meta moving forward, and you can set all of this up with just a single melee. The Fragment Ember of Torches will make you and your team Radiant. Melee Wellmaker will generate a Solar Elemental Well. Font of Might will give you a solar weapon boost for grabbing this well, and then Elemental Charge plus High Energy Fire will give you the extra 20%. And as I mentioned, this all just procs off of one melee kill on a single ad. That's all for this video, guys. I hope it clears some things up about buff stacking. As always, have a good one. Peace.